Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am here with a new story of today. It was one of those dreary, overcast mornings that seemed to drain the colour from the world. I was sitting in my tiny city apartment, nursing a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold when my phone vibrated against the table. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years, Linda. My stepmother and I had lost touch after my father passed away 5 years ago. Our relationship had always been complicated, a mix of politeness, shared grief, and an unspoken distance that neither of us seemed willing to bridge. Seeing her name now brought a rush of memories I wasn't prepared for. I hesitated before answering, already feeling a knot form in my stomach. "Jack, hi!" Her voice came through the receiver, sounding strangely vulnerable. I could almost picture her sitting in the old armchair in the living room, nervously fidgeting with her wedding ring like she always did when she was anxious. "I'm sorry to call out of the blue like this. I know it's been a long time, but I need your help." Linda needing my help was unexpected, to say the least. In all the years I'd known her, she had always been fiercely independent, handling everything on her own. Even after my father's sudden death, she managed to keep herself together in a way that I couldn't. I leaned back in my chair, a myriad of questions swirling in my head. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, filled only with the faint sound of her breathing. Finally, she spoke, her voice almost a whisper. "It's about your father. I found something I can't handle alone. Can you come over?" The mention of my father hit me like a punch to the gut. After he died, I had tried to bury those memories, to move on with my life in the city far from the small town where I grew up. But something in her tone, a mix of fear and sadness, made it impossible for me to say no. "I'll be there in a few hours," I said, already grabbing my keys and jacket. The drive back to my childhood home felt surreal. The rain started falling halfway there, a slow drizzle that blurred the landscape and made everything look grey. As I passed familiar landmarks, memories surfaced of summer barbecues, family hikes, and quiet evenings by the fireplace. I thought about the last time I'd been back for my father's funeral. It had been a brief visit, filled with forced smiles, empty condolences, and a hollow sense of finality. I had left without looking back, certain that chapter of my life was over. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same as it always had, but it felt different, darker, like the life had been drained from it. The garden, once meticulously maintained by my father, was overgrown and wild. The paint on the shutters was peeling, and the windows were streaked with rain. I took a deep breath before knocking on the door, trying to steady my nerves. Linda opened the door almost immediately, as if she had been waiting there the whole time. She looked older than I remembered, with deep lines etched into her face and grey streaks in her once dark hair. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. She gave me a small, tentative smile. "Jack, thank you for coming. I know it's sudden." I stepped inside, the familiar scent of the house hitting me, a mix of old wood, books, and the faint smell of my father's cologne, which Linda had apparently kept using even after he was gone. I followed her into the living room, where she gestured for me to sit. The room was filled with the remnants of my father's life, his favourite books, his old pipe sitting in an ashtray, photos of our family that seemed to belong to another era. On the coffee table, there was a worn-out shoebox that seemed oddly out of place. "I found this in the attic a few weeks ago," Linda said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't open it at first. I thought it was just another box of your dad's old stuff. But then strange things started happening. I'd hear noises at night, footsteps, whispering. I thought I was losing my mind." I glanced at the box, feeling a strange chill run down my spine. "You think it's something to do with this box?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Linda nodded, biting her lip. "I finally opened it yesterday and I found these." She reached into the box and pulled out a stack of letters, tied together with a faded red ribbon. The paper was yellowed with age, and the ink was smudged in places, as if someone had read them over and over again. "These are letters from Margaret," she said quietly. My breath caught in my throat. Margaret was my father's first wife, the woman he had married long before he met my mother. As far as I knew, she had died in a car accident when I was just a baby. My father had never talked about her, and neither had Linda. It was like she was a ghost, a part of the past everyone had agreed to forget. I took the letters from her, feeling the weight of the years in my hands. I untied the ribbon and unfolded the first letter. The handwriting was neat, almost elegant. The date on the top corner was from 1992, 5 years before I was born. I began to read, my eyes scanning the faded words. "My dearest John," it began, "I can't bear this any longer. I know you love me, but I can't live with this secret. It's eating away at me. Every time I look at you, I see the guilt in your eyes. We have to tell someone. We can't keep pretending everything is fine. I can't keep lying to the people I care about." I stopped reading, feeling a lump form in my throat. I glanced up at Linda, who was watching me with a mixture of fear and sadness. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling. "I found more letters like that one. They all talk about a secret, something they were hiding, but it doesn't make any sense. I thought Margaret died in an accident. That's what your father always told me, but these letters, they suggest something else." I felt a rush of anger mixed with confusion. My father had always been a straightforward, honest man, or so I thought, but now it seemed like he had been keeping secrets, even from his own family. I grabbed another letter from the stack, skimming through the words. They were filled with the same fear, the same desperate pleas. "John," another letter read, "I can't sleep. I keep hearing her voice. She's everywhere. We need to go to the police. We need to tell them the truth. I'm begging you before it's too late." I set the letter down, feeling a cold sweat on my forehead. "Who is she talking about?" I asked. "Who did she hear? What truth?" Linda shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know," she whispered. "But there's more." She reached into the shoebox and pulled out a small black diary. It was leather-bound and looked ancient. "This was at the bottom of the box. It's Margaret's journal. I started reading it last night, but I couldn't finish. It was too much." I took the diary from her, feeling the cracked leather under my fingers. I flipped it open to a random page, my eyes scanning the words. "June 15th, 1993, the entry began. "He did it. He actually did it. I can't believe it. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I thought I knew him, but now I don't recognize the man I married. I can't live with this. I have to leave. I have to get away before he does something worse." My heart was pounding in my chest. This wasn't the story I had been told. My father, the man I had idolized, was painted here as a monster, someone capable of something unspeakable. I looked up at Linda, who was wiping her tears away with the back of her hand. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Because I need your help," she said, her voice filled with desperation. "I need to know the truth. I can't live with these ghosts anymore. Please, Jack, help me find out what really happened to Margaret." I stared at the letters, the diary, the fragments of a life I had never known. The rain was still falling outside, the sound of it pounding against the windows like a heartbeat. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a dark, bottomless abyss. I didn't know what we would find at the bottom, but one thing was clear. I couldn't turn back now. I nodded slowly, the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders. "Okay," I said, "let's find out the truth." And so we began our search, two people bound together by the same questions, the same ghosts, digging into a past that had long been buried. I had come here expecting a simple request, but what I found instead was the beginning of a journey into the darkness of my father's hidden life. A journey that would change everything I thought I knew about my family and myself.